Hello again, everyone. This week we're going to talk about something a little bit different. We are going to talk about violence and sex. Whoa. No, we're not talking about an R-rated movie here. We're going to talk about the 5th and 6th commandments. Exodus 20 verses 13 and 14 says, "You shall not murder, you shall not commit adultery." That sounds pretty straightforward, doesn't it? Not a lot of interpretation there. But even with this clear message from God, we in our society have a lot of problems keeping these two commandments. I want to start our discussion of the 5th commandment, "You shall not murder," with a quick quiz for you. For every 100,000 people in the United States in the year 2008, how many do you think were murdered? Is it A, 2.3, B, 5.4, C, 11.1, or D, 18.9? Well, the correct answer is B, 5.4. Now, when I've given this quiz in the past, almost all the kids thought it was a higher number. Why is that? Well, researchers say that teenagers feel this is a higher number because of all the violence they see on television, video games, etc. They kind of become desensitized to it. Okay, with these same 4 choices, in the year 2006, how many people committed suicide? The answer there is 11.1. Now, both of these sets of statistics show how man has broken this commandment. With God's help, none of us will be one of those statistics. However, we still break this commandment in other ways, as we will see. But first I want to ask you, what is God protecting with the 5th commandment? Pause the video and read Genesis 2, verse 7. God is protecting His gift to man of body and life. He gave each of us life, and He wants us to cherish this gift. Why is the time of a person's life on earth so important? Let's pause the video and read Hebrews 9, verse 27. Our time on earth is so important because it is the time when we either seek salvation through Jesus Christ, so that when our bodies die, we will live in paradise, or we are lost forever. So what does God forbid regarding His gift of body and life? Well, we already talked about murder and suicide, but what else does God forbid? Let's pause the video and read Proverbs 23, verse 20. God forbids anyone to harm his body in any way, such as overeating, over-drinking, abusing drugs. God also forbids us to cause someone else to harm their body. Let's pause the video now and read Matthew 5, verse 21 and 22. God forbids every hateful thought or word. Okay, so if these are what we are not supposed to do, what should we do? Pause the video and read a couple of verses here. 1 Thessalonians 5, verses 14 and 15, and also Ephesians 4, verse 32. God also wants us to be helpful and to be a friend to others. Well, let's move on to the 6th commandment. You shall not commit adultery. What is God protecting with this commandment? God is protecting His gift of marriage. What kinds of things does God bless us with through marriage? He blesses us in marriage with a loving companion, with sexual happiness, and with children. How does a married person sin against God's will in regard to His gift of marriage? Here I want you to pause the video and read Colossians 3, verse 19. A married person sins if he or she destroys the companionship of the marriage. Now I'd like you to pause the video and read Hebrews 13, verse 4. A married person sins if he has sexual intercourse with anyone other than their spouse. Well, how does an unmarried person sin against God's will in regard to his gift of marriage? Let's look up 1 Thessalonians 4, verses 3 through 5. God forbids premarital sex. What else does God forbid in this commandment for married and unmarried people? Pause the video and read Matthew 5, verses 27 and 28. God forbids impure words and lustful thoughts. What does he say about homosexuality? Let's read 1 Corinthians 6, 9 through 10. God condemns homosexuality as a sin. Okay, this is what God says not to do. What should we have under the do column? Let's pause the video and read 1 Timothy 5, verse 22, and Proverbs 1, verse 10. God wants us to be pure in thought, word, and deed, and he wants us to flee from temptation. Finally, I'd like to ask you, if you were using something that belonged to someone else, let's say that belongs to a good friend of yours, would you take care of that thing better or worse than if it belonged to you? I think most of us would say we would take better care of it if it belonged to someone else. Well, let's pause the video and read 1 Corinthians 7, verse 4. If we keep this in mind, we show honor and love to our spouse. Okay, I'm going to show you our diagrams now for the 5th and 6th commandments. Thou shalt not murder, God's gift of life. Under the things we should do, we should be patient, kind, forgiving, helpful, and be a friend. Under don't do, we should not harm our body. We should not commit suicide. We should not harm another's body. We should not murder. And we should not have hateful thoughts and words. And then God's gift of marriage, thou shalt not commit adultery. We should be pure in thought, word, and deed. We should honor and love our marriage partner, and we should flee from temptation. And we should not destroy our companionship, be unfaithful. We should not divorce. We should not have premarital sex. We should not have impure words and thoughts, and we should not be a homosexual. That's our lesson this week. To find out more about the 5th and 6th commandments, you can turn to your small catechism starting on page 77. Thanks and have a blessed week.